Yo, welcome back everyone here to the Tier 2 talk. It's a pleasure as always to be alongside Dweg, and of course today we've got kreaz. I know I haven't switched it over yet, that's because for some reason I've made a bit of an error, lads, I'm not gonna lie. So
Schoolboy error, would you say?
yeah, just a little one. So bear with while I figure out. We'll stick on the screen though, and I guess we'll just start chatting about Counter-Strike, and while I'm panicking, we can talk about life. kreaz, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Yep.
Sweet, right? Okay,
Not much to it.
there we go. We're all right now. We're all right. So let's talk Counter-Strike. First things first. Obviously, a bit of an introduction to you. Do you wanna explain who you are and what you're up to these days?
Yeah. My name is Rasmus, and my in-game name is kreaz. I play for Team Finest. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Obviously we tweeted about you yesterday. Asked people to give us questions as usual. Don't have many, so we've devised our own here, Dweg, to sort of fire at him. The first question that we did have, and I think it was from the public, right, is what your warm-up routine is. And I'm always interested in this one because people have different ways. So hit me with your warm-up routine.
Okay, so basically I just play pugs as warm-up.
Yeah.
I like to play pugs like so depending on when we start, if it's like an early morning game, I do aimbots, but otherwise I'll just do like 1 or 2 pugs before we have the game. If it's like 14, 15, like a game around that time. Even sometimes 13, I'll do a pug around 11 or something.
Interesting. Is there like a certain platform that you like most? Because I know some people like Forza, ESEA, I know eSportal's quite big. I've seen you streaming a bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, usually I just do eSportal just to get like some confidence, because they're usually a bit worse.
Right. Okay. So that gets you in the game then.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Nice. Dweg, do you want to keep firing them because for some reason I can't access them?
Yeah. I guess kind of break me down what it's like playing on Finest now, because obviously when we think back in previous teams, it's mainly been Swedish teams you've been a part of. I know that you played with the Simon boys for a bit when you were talking in English, but now you're sort of on like an EU team, but only very recently it's become core Swedish. So is it still Swedish at times, or is it just 100% English?
So first of all, actually, I haven't played for any Swedish teams except for Apex in general. Everything else have been mixes.
Just mixes, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so there haven't actually been any teams. So actually, I'm used to playing international. I played with Epsilon and with Simon, and there's one more team I can't remember. But yeah, for now we try to keep it only in English. We do everything in English basically. Sometimes it's actually only me that I switch to Swedish if I have a player with me on the bomb site. If I just want to ask him about something quick, but otherwise we just try to keep everything in English. And about yeah, I mean we felt like we had to do a roster change last year, even though we were doing pretty good. There was some issues in the team. I can't go into specifics, but yeah, we had some issues, and then we found out that Pleasant and Twist, they weren't signed. They were playing for Savage. They didn't find an org, so actually it was our old manager just told me to reach out to them and ask them if they wanted to join, and yeah, we're super happy to have them in the team.
I guess, like, even thinking back, I mean, one thing that we asked on the last show, and we'll ask again, is what it's like playing in such a competitive Tier 2 space these days. Because when you think back even a few years ago when you were playing on Simon, I remember you guys were like top 30, top 40, around that sort of level. But it feels like, certainly in today's current climate, getting top 30 is a lot more difficult than it was a few years ago. So what's it like these days playing in all these online cups and trying to grind the rankings and playing with such high caliber teams?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty stressful, to be honest. Like the thing is, it's so much harder nowadays because literally every team has an analyst, they have a coach. If they don't, they do all the prep by themselves. Like you had Ecstatic, for example, when they didn't have a coach, they would do I think they would watch 5 maps. Every player would do 1 map each or something. So literally everyone is preparing, everyone is finding new things. You have some YouTube channels where you can find all the new tricks basically. So Like it's so much more competitive nowadays, and the meta is changing. I wouldn't say it's changing all the time, but there's always new things, you know, that you have to look out for in game. So I would say like the tier 2 is probably uh, harder than tier 1 in some sense because there's always new things.
Fair enough. Someone in Twitch chat has asked what ESEA team has impressed you? Maybe not just in ESL Challenger League, but is there anyone in advanced or that in recent times, maybe not just in ESEA, that's sort of caught you by surprise?
God, mate, there's got to be one.
I mean, not really, I would say, but I'm still kind of like. I wouldn't say surprised, but I'm maybe a little bit by Entropic, actually about how consistent they have become, you know, and how good of CS they play if you actually watch their games and watch how they play CS together. I would say they're actually a really good team, like fundamentally and everything, and they have a lot of individual skill.
Fair enough. Any more questions, Dweg, you want to fire?
Yeah. Who's the best player you've played with and the best player you've played against, kreaz?
Ooh. I mean, obviously when we played versus Navi and Simon, simple. Definitely best player I played against. And with, I mean, when I stood in for Fnatic, I played with Brolan, and then in Epsilon, I played with Brookie, so I would say those two probably.
Yeah, strong names.
Yeah.
I guess for the teams, maybe for you and for Finest, I mean, obviously you mentioned a couple of new roster changes came through earlier this year. What are some of the goals for, I don't know, maybe let's say the next 6 months towards the end of the year as well?
I mean, our first goal is obviously top 30, but like you said, it's really competitive. It's super hard to get there nowadays. But I think, I don't know if you have seen any of our games lately, but I think we are playing pretty good CS. But we have some things to iron out, and after I think we should be able to get there. But yeah, I mean the main focus for us now, for example, is to stay in ESL Challenger League. I mean now we have to play the relegation.
Yep.
So we'll have to I would say gain our spot again. But yeah, top 30 is definitely like the long term goal, you know.
Oh, well, we'll definitely touch on that a little bit later because we will get into the groups that have been played from ECL. Any tips to maybe some of the youngsters, some of the up and comers on like how to actually go pro? Because to go from that step of being a casual player to then going pro, it is a massive jump.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is actually, even if you're super skilled, watch demos. Like, you have to watch demos. That's just, I know everyone says it, but that's literally how it is. Like, you have to watch demos if you want to become good. And then I would say, try to focus on doing things right in game, which can be hard at times because sometimes you will not realize it yourself. But it's actually, I mean, it's something that I'm not doing yet with everything, you know. And I'm like, I don't know, like playing full time, you know, for I don't know 5 years, and you still have struggled to do it sometimes. So I would say like focus on doing things right, you know, and correct, and not just be like, oh yeah, it worked, you know, and then next time you have no idea what you're doing.
Fair enough. We should do that, Dweg, and our pugs, mate. Need to realise what we do better, mate. You know, level 4 is quite the slog, isn't it?
Don't have to get out of the stream, mate. What are you doing?
They're gonna check.
Ah, level 4, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I'll carry you, mate. Don't worry about that one.
We're not getting any yellow anyway, so it's fine. Well, yeah.
I guess I'd actually want to maybe touch on the streaming side of things because I think there's a lot of players in Tier 2 that don't stream, that don't do a lot of like the content pieces. I know that you've done like some interviews in the past and you've come on a couple of content pieces. Do you think that's important for like not only you, but just Tier 2 players as a whole to do the streaming things, to do the YouTube, whatever it may be?
Yeah, so to be honest, in my personal opinion, I think it depends kind of where you are at, you know, because for some players, for me, personally, actually, it's pretty hard to stream because I don't get a lot of viewers. We don't have a big Swedish fan base. For example, Anark is my teammate. You know, he's not been streaming nearly as much as me, but he can just turn on his stream and he will have like 80 viewers. You know, and all the Israeli fans in the Discord, they will just instantly, like we have a fan Discord, they will just instantly go to his stream. You know, but. But I think in general, yeah, I think it's important to do the social media things. But I think in CS nowadays, it's kind of, I would say it's pretty hard to actually get noticed. Even if you're like a tier 2 player or something, you have to have something special about you.
All right. Anything else to add, Ryan?
No, mate. I'm all good. I'm all good.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. Talking about you and finals, should we start getting into some of the events?
Yes, can do. We'll talk about the finished events first and foremost. I think there's a couple of ESL events drawing to a close in recent times. Kayzr League's coming to a close. We had the pleasure of watching IEM Dallas as well. There's a fair few other tournaments out there that we'll probably talk through and discuss as we get through sort of the finished events. We'll start with the local ESL ones, and what I did want to bring up was the Polish scene. I think there's actually a lot of teams in Poland now starting to strike tier 2. As you can see, this was the playoff stage, the bracket for the entirety of the event. Obviously, it's 4 teams that go through to the quarterfinals, 2 teams get invited to the semis, and then they play the grand finals, which interestingly here is a BO3, but in other ESL events it's a BO5. So yeah. I don't know. We'll talk about maybe the structure of a BO3 compared to a BO5 in a bit. But Illumina, one of the teams that maybe you would expect to have Wisla Krakow maybe, you know, taking a map at least off of you. They've won the whole thing.
Imagine. Yeah. Kreaz, I don't know if you've played this new Illumina team, but they're on a 7-game winning streak. They've won back-to-back events. They won the Esport Tour event, Ryan, that we spoke about, I think, a couple of episodes ago. Now they've won this ESL Polish Champions. And I think 4 out of the 5 players signed 3 months ago. So this is a brand new Illumina lineup. I don't know if you've seen any of them, Kreaz.
To be honest, I'm not sure. It's the Minio Morals. Yeah, we practiced versus these guys actually.
Yeah, any good?
Yeah, they're pretty. I mean, the thing is, in practice, all the Polish teams are very, very aggressive. So it's like you don't always know if they're actually playing that good or if they're just like winning the aim duels. But yeah, they seem pretty decent, to be honest. I mean, winning 2-0 with Wisla Krakow is, of course, like that's pretty surprising, to be honest, because Wisla has been playing pretty good lately.
Yeah, they're starting to make some inroads again. I think when they lost Hades, they had a difficult time period. But then even for Anonymous, right, they made the RMR. I mean, they're a little bit shaky, they're a little bit up and down, but they played pretty well at the RMR. And then to sort of see them go 0-2 and not even take a map against Wisla. The thing to even note as well is Pact placed second in that Esport Tour event recently. Then they came into the playoffs, so they're starting to find a bit of a groove again. And Morels, he's always been a player that I looked at, Kreaz, where he's like really sick in FPL and what have you, but maybe struggles in the Team CS point of view. This event, he was mental. He put up some really big numbers. So have you ever played like FPL or anything with Morels?
Yeah, actually, I played with him a lot. Like,
yeah,
so he's a friend of mine. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. The thing is, I think he's a very aggressive player, or usually he used to be at least. And I think it works pretty well in pugs, but it can be super difficult depending on what teammates you have in the team. You know, if you're too aggressive and your teammates are not really on the same page, I think you're just gonna get punished over and over. You know. And I know for a fact, I think that was kind of what happened to him in VP, if you remember, super long ago when he came in and played with them.
Yeah.
He would just go die all the time and he wouldn't get any trades.
Well, I think the factor to bring up here as well, Ryan, is that winning the Polish championship gives you the spot into obviously EPL Season 16 conference, whereas the Turkey Championship, which is the other one that we're going to talk about, that only gives you the spot into the national championship qualifier. So it does feel as if, depending on what region you're a part of, the pathways are slightly different. And I mean, even for the Turkish championship, we saw like Eternal Fire obviously going through. That's not as stacked, obviously, like as the Polish one is. But they went through pretty easy. I don't think they dropped a map in the group stage, didn't drop a map in the playoffs either. But they go into the qualifier with the likes of EC Brugge, SAW, and a Swiss team that I haven't heard of before. So depending on what region you're a part of, I know that in the UK you go straight to conference. So it does change up. Have you ever played in the like the national championships before?
No, I haven't, but I think it's insane that UK have a direct spot into the, the Challenger one. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, like, if do you think, like, sort of following on from that, do you think the UK scene is not as good as maybe us UK people think?
I mean, we have two kind of good teams now, but I think the thing is, like, for example, here in Sweden, we never had any like invites to any of these type of leagues or anything, which is kind of insane, to be honest. Because, okay, right now maybe we don't have that many teams, but before we definitely had some teams. Like we had Japolino, we had ReTr00, we had a lot of teams, you know, and yeah, exactly, and we never had anything where we could like actually qualify into anything, which is insane. And then like I hear about the UK one, and sometimes I see they're playing like versus, for me, unknown people, and they're just like qualifying into the fucking challenger thing.
We had Quicks
Conference
and,
League, sorry,
and HNS on the last show, obviously
Yeah.
fellow Swedes, and we were talking to them about like when is the next Swedish team gonna make the major, and I think Gamer Legion was like up there, and obviously you guys were as well. I think back to the last few years, and it just feels as if even though there's a lot of good Swedish players, we don't have the strongest Swedish teams. So, like, what do you think that is? That breaking that barrier to maybe trying to get that jump up to tier one, unless you're a Fnatic or an NIP back in the day, no one else seems to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who already talked about this, but I think the problem with the Swedish scene is that everyone wants to be a star, and no one wants to have the shit roles, and I think it's changing a bit. I haven't played with any of like these younger people really, except like Susp, but I heard there's a lot of good Swedish like talents or whatever you want to call it coming up, who's good team players and everything. But I think that has been the problem for. I mean, maybe I haven't been the best team player always as well, but you know, I think that has been the problem in general for teams, that we don't really have players who actually want to play like the team CS. They just want to get to the next level by themselves, you know.
Okay. Maybe we can touch on this this Kaiser League, Ryan. I don't know if you watched any of the Heaven and Hell games, whether it was in groups or in players. Did you see them at all?
I watched the Heaven and Hell semi-final game. I'll bring up the graphic now for those at home, and obviously they did really well in their group. For those that maybe don't know, this Kaiser League has been, I think it's been around a little while now, right? And it's
I've seen them for a bit,
like a lower prize pool tournament, and this is where we get to see some fairly decent sides sort of battle it out, and you know, I think it's more appealing to the like 100 rank mark, maybe a little bit lower than that, it feels like, at least. And yeah, obviously we're talking about Heaven and Hell, a team that came from Open last season. I think, you know, Leaf and Doc's probably the most notable names in that. And they get, you know, eliminated by a Lowland Lions side that later on in this cycle, they actually just got beat by Heaven and Hell in ESEA Advance. So it's kind of come full circle. But yeah, really disappointing result from them. I think they should have absolutely made the final, considering how well they did in the group. kreaz, have you faced, obviously, probably the alternate attacks guys, maybe the EC Brugge guys? Do you know anyone else in this bracket? Anyone else that has sort of caught your eye?
I think we played versus Lowland Lions, but I can't really remember who these guys are, to be honest.
That's the one with like Ryu and Rabbit, Refuser, some of the Benelux players.
Yeah, we played versus these guys in practice a few times. To be honest, okay, it's this team. Yeah. Okay, yeah, they're actually decent. I think we practiced them even last week or something. So I don't think they're that bad, to be honest. But I'm still kind of surprised to see that Atax lost, because I thought they were on the way up, weren't they? They were like winning some games before with the. Not sure.
The Atex that I remember was obviously the one that Slacks and Skrunk was on, and I think that they were making some really good inroads. It was probably the time that Vertigo came into the map pool that they were around top 30, top 40, and they were just playing in all the tier 2 events and everything. But then all of a sudden, it obviously that lineup sort of fell apart, and they've gone in with some new talent. So, are you familiar with any of the players on alternate attacks? Because I look at them and I'm not familiar with many.
Only the cheater.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
That's the only one.
All right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well,
well, I mean, to touch on obviously Heaven and Hell a little bit more, Ryan. They won ESEA Open last season, so they're currently in advanced, and it's another HLTV event for them. I don't, at least from my point of view, I don't class them as a higher end UK team just yet.
Yeah.
I think when they get like a little bit more experience and advanced, when they get on HLTV a little bit more, I might put them in that conversation of the likes of a Fanbit and an ITB and maybe even a Blackhand. But as of right now, it's good that they get the odd game here or there. The issue is, of course, they've had 2 chances now, and both times they've lost the best of 3. So that's not going to help their ranking at all. That's not going to, help them get some further invites. And then as well, the semi-final, I think it was even very close for Heaven and Hell. It was 15-19 on map 3. So it is sad and disappointing that they couldn't come through when it is an overtime loss, but sometimes that's just how it happens.
Yeah, it's sad. Obviously, for those at home maybe that didn't know as well, they've recently just made changes. A little bit of insight. Yes, Christian is actually out of Heaven and Hell. He's gone to Fate, and we're now waiting for the 5th to be announced.
He's gone to where?
He's gone to Fate Esports, the Bulgarian.
Oh, the Bulgarians?
Yeah. So he's obviously jumped ship over to there. Well, at least it's on the ESEA page, like he's joined them, and I think they just played a game with him in it. So I can only guess that he's a permanent player there. But yeah, we're still on the lookout for who that new 5th's going to be. And obviously for the UK talk specifically, is this where we see the Regan call up? Azuru had a pretty good performance at Insomnia. So, I don't know. It's a conversation for another day. But for this side, the way they went from open to advanced, I think it was all smiles and joy. And as you said, now that they are actually getting into the slog of things, into sort of the tier 2, tier 3 space, they're finding it a lot harder than maybe once perceived. kreaz, when you were sort of playing and maybe started your career, did you always think that tier 3 was going to, or tier 3, tier 2 is a little easier than what it is when you actually started playing?
Not really, because when I played in 2015-16, my first HLTV games and stuff, the tier 3 scene was actually really weak. I don't know if you remember, but basically there weren't a lot of teams. Almost everyone was mixes, even like when Res and these guys qualified for the minor. I think they were just a full mix, winning versus Hellraiser and stuff. So the tier 2 or 3 scene was back then was really, I would say, really bad, to be honest. Like people weren't practicing and stuff like that. But nowadays, of course, like it's super competitive. I mean, people are able to actually live and play full time of like tier 2, tier 3 CS. So I think it changed a lot. But I would say back then, I would say like the scene was kinda in like tier 3 was kinda non-existent, to be honest.
I ask you this, kreaz, is Richie trapped in EC Brugge? I remember last year towards the first, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months of the year. It was obviously before he joined Gorillas and just tanked it completely. He was on track of being like one of the best tier 2 players. Like he was just farming, just so many crazy performances, always putting up numbers. He still is a very good player for this team, but the team's not finding success. So does Richie just go elsewhere, or does he just stay? I don't know.
Yeah, actually I played qualifier with him, and I don't want to say too much, but I heard for some people he can be a bit like not hard to work with or anything like that, but he really needs to have the freedom in a team, if you really want him to perform. So I think for him it might be hard to like go into any team and just take any role, He really need to get his roles and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I remember he was super good. He was actually, was it last year or the year before? I'm not sure. 1 or 2 years ago, he was really, really good.
Yeah, I was, to be honest, I was thinking the exact same thing. Was it 2020 or was it 2021? But it was
I'm pretty sure it was
Gorillas.
2020, to be honest, because when I stood in for Lil Mix, we played versus them and he was insane. I remember it.
Okay. This could be a good opportunity, I think, Ryan, to get over to the IEM Dallas quals.
Yes.
And this probably, kreaz, is where you get to know these teams a little bit
Yeah.
more. And I know that both you and I, Ryan, we got to cast this event, so we got a lot of familiarity when it comes to the teams that play there.
Yes. For those that didn't know, it was kind of a bit of a cool one. We had 2 open qualifiers into the closed qualifiers. It was a double elimination bracket, and basically the top 2 teams, one from the upper, one from the lower bracket, made it through to the event. So we sort of watched over, speculated, discussed a little bit as to how things were gonna go. Actually, I think it is as expected as it could go. MOUZ maybe getting upset by Big earlier on in the tournament and then beating them in the lower bracket final to get their place in IEM Dallas was a bit of a wild card. Do you want to sort of touch on maybe the more pronounced tier 2 teams in this bracket and in this event? ESEA taking on Fnatic, beating them 2-1. I mean, obviously Fnatic have been down for quite some time, but a brilliant result for them. And the game against MOUZ, if I'm not mistaken, watching that, as you can see, it was actually 2 very close maps. And they had a huge comeback on Vertigo as well. I think I remember it was 9-6. They lose the pistol, they lose the first buy, and then they just, as soon as MOUZ hit 15, they just won round after round after round. And I think it was like a 4, 5, 6 round streak. Unfortunately, obviously couldn't pull it off in the end, but yeah, ESEA a great performance, and another team I think we can throw into the hat is Apex, right? I guess Movistar Riders are a less known name when it comes to this bracket maybe than Fnatic, but I would argue the better team right now, and taking a map off Copenhagen Flames, who've just qualified for the Legend stage as well. I think it's actually very respectable results from the teams that we would sort of border in our tier 2 talk.
I'm on the fence a little bit. What do you reckon, kreaz? Do you think the way that the placings went in this bracket was expected, or not really?
Yeah, I'll scroll
the
up.
thing is,
there you go.
Yeah, Movistar Riders obviously shouldn't place last. I mean, if you look to their performance in Pro League and stuff. The thing with Copenhagen Flames online, I know like Apex took a map of them. The thing is, online they're completely different compared to LAN. You know, we played them as well when they were playing was it the last major? RMR probably, or something like this. We played versus them. I can't remember exactly, or if it was the major. It was in Sweden, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we played them the last major. We almost beat them actually, and then they were also they were super high ranked and everything, and they're just a completely different team online. They're something is lacking, you know, when you see them play online compared to LAN. So I'm not like super surprised by them. I would say the like big surprise is ESEA, but at the same time we practice versus them, we played versus them, and they're actually playing good CS, you know, and they have been together for almost 2 years, I think now.
Yeah, I
Or
think
1.5 or something.
the chatter is that recently they're starting to get some really good form. Because even though they've been together for a really long time, I don't think they've been playing as well as they have since recently.
No,
I
definitely.
don't know what's changed, but the last couple of months they've been working really hard, and the results are obviously showing that. They were even down against Fnatic 5-14 on the last map of Ancient, and then won 11 rounds in a row. Crazy, right? For them to be able to get an upset like that, but it does happen, and they almost 2-0'd Copenhagen Flames in the first game too. Like, even though they didn't win a map, or they won one map, look at map 1 and map 2. 16-4 absolutely slammed them, and then it went 14-16 on map 2. So there could have been a very good chance there for ESEA to be able to get a win. As for Movistar Riders, they didn't win a single map. They won 8 rounds on their map picks in 2 best-of-3s. Like, I don't know what is going on there, but they won, I think, 6 rounds on Inferno and 2 on Nuke, which is their picks. So yeah, very odd that Movistar Riders didn't put up much of a fight at all. I think for Apex, they were fairly disappointing. I know that you've played with them before, but they didn't play that well against Big. They put out okay performance against Movistar Riders and for Copenhagen Flames, but I'd like to see maybe a bit more of a push for Apex to see if they can qualify for a big event, try and get that experience, because the players that they've got on the team, I would imagine, put them in a LAN environment, put them against some tier 1 teams, and they could probably do some serious damage.
Yeah, I mean, when I played there, it was a completely different lineup though in Apex.
For sure, yeah.
But
the organization, like, what was it like playing under them?
It's super nice. I really liked it, to be honest. They're really nice guys and everything. I think with this new lineup, I think they definitely have the players, but it feels like somehow I don't know if it's like the synergy or something lacking in that team, because when you watch them play, they can be like one game completely dominating and the next game you're like, what the fuck is going on, you know? You're just watching and you're like, are they all tilted, or, you know, like what is going on in this game? But yeah.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, like Entropic's really consistent performances. I'd actually say from the beginning of this year to now, they have been on the poorer side and they haven't quite been able to find the form that they did last year. Obviously, not qualifying to the RMR was like, geez, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
This is another event that doesn't look great. And then all of a sudden, geez, they just slam teams when it came to this qualifier. I think Nickelback was the highest rated player or the second highest rated player in this event. Like, when you've got your in-game leader fragging as mentally as he did, and even Forrester putting up some really big performances, this could be them getting back into some form, because that would have felt like, geez, that was a very good opportunity to get to the major, and they blew it this time. So they'll have to try and see if they can redeem themselves in Dallas, Ryan.
Yes. Have we got any other finished events that we want to talk about here, Dweg, or you want to move on to the ongoing?
No, let's go on to the ongoing ones.
Okay. I think then what we can do is maybe one that interests a lot of people. There's a lot of ongoing events. Let's not forget. There is a lot to go through when it comes to this one. Do you want to start with maybe the ESL Challenger League, going on the topic of Entropic? Yeah, it's going to be a sore spot for kreaz. I am sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's fine.
We talked about it earlier. Obviously, you guys now in relegation. Entropic in your group as well, 2-0, went 64-23 through their group. I'll bring up the group graphic now so we can see A and B side by side.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Is that just against you, mate? Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, the disrespect.
Yeah. Unlucky.
Yes. We can talk about maybe group B first, and then we'll come across to group A. Entropic 2-0. As you said, they have had an unreal tournament here as well. Their group has been solid. A plus 41 in the 2 games that they played. Obviously beating you guys 16-5, 16-8. And then they played Sinners, and it was a 16-3, 16-7. It just didn't matter who they played. Not a single team could get double digits off them. And I think what you said earlier, kreaz, is perfectly all right. Obviously, in an ideal world, you guys would take at least a map, if not the series, against Entropic. But how well these guys have been playing, specifically in sort of like the last months or so, some new form. As Dweg said, maybe this year it hasn't been too great for them and a lot of missed opportunities. But actually, in recent times, back to the online CS, they're looking unreal.
Yeah, I think even, I know you mentioned they didn't qualify to the major, but I think in general, the good thing with Entropic, even if they don't qualify, is that they're usually not getting bombed out of games. You know, they're usually getting super close games. So I think even though they didn't qualify, they still put up some kind of form. You know, because they're always getting these close games, and I think that's like one of their strong sides, that they can always put up rounds. You know.
Do you reckon that hurts the mental of some players and teams when you have close games but just don't close it?
I think it depends a lot on the individuals and on your philosophy inside the team, you know, because I think that some players focus a lot on like only the, how to say, only the positives of winning, but never like the positives when you actually lose, you know. And I think you can learn a lot. And I think they are actually a team who was kind of like Forza. They were playing every single online tournament and stuff. And I think that's why they are actually also, I think they're a team that can always bounce back, you know, because they're not scared of losing these online games and stuff. And you can also see that in the way they're playing. Not scared of taking risks and not scared of doing plays, even when they're down.
Okay. Well, I think what we saw here in Group B was obviously a very good performance from Entropic. I want to ask about Ecstatic, because this is a team that obviously Bird from Sky has been a part of for just so many years now. And I always remember the Lingby side, they played tactically very well, but it took them a very long time to start getting form and to start really rising up. And even recently, we saw, I think, Wolfie step down for the team, and like Zello is standing in. So what's it like playing Ecstatic now in comparison to, I don't know, maybe before the roster changes?
I mean, the thing now is that they are like 40 times worse.
Really?
I mean, yeah. The thing is, I mean, of course, it's easy for me. I'm biased, but we should have won that game, like definitely. On our pass, we should have had that overtime. Like there's no question about
It was
it.
a close game.
Yeah, but
Well, map
even
one
when
and map
like when
two.
you watch back on the demo, like
Right.
there's so many rounds that we are just I don't want to say throw, but like we should win these rounds like 100%. If you look from like a perspective of how CS should be played, you know. Yeah, I mean, Bird from Sky has always had like some good tactics and stuff. I know that people have been like stealing things from him actually for at least like 3 years, tactics and stuff. No, but I'm serious. Like even good teams actually have things from him. Like he comes up with a lot of new things. But I just feel like the team kind of like dropped off super hard when they lost Wolfie for some reason.
Yeah, well, they're definitely dipping in the rankings.
Hey, hello, is it working? All right,
Something's wrong with the PC.
Nah, yeah, mate, need it checked out. Nah, it's we're all right, we're all right. Where were we? Sorry, guys. Just the biggest fumble. We're good, we're good.
Couple of tech delays. Do you get we get it all the time. You do it to us, kreaz. We're on broadcast, like the teams are calling a tech pause because I spelt like water on the PC. Like we get the worst excuses in the world. So yeah, it's coming back. Have you had any poor excuses in the past?
I don't know how much I can spoil, but we had a guy. listen, just listen to this. We had a guy. He literally, we're playing a fucking official. It's like 12, 13 or something, and he just says beard back. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? And this is coming back like 5 minutes after. Okay, let's play. And we're like, what happened? Nothing. And we just,
What?
what the fuck? And the admin was like, a reason? He just said, go play. And we're like, no, what the fuck?
Man,
The classic.
that's crazy.
Love it.
That's crazy.
I love, and not even the team knows why you take a technical pause. Like he just comes back, he's like, go play. We're like, what happened? Nothing. Okay.
Man. I'm trying to think of like the craziest reasons we've had for tech pauses. I remember there was one game on Nuke, and it was like they were winning like 12-2, I want to say, or like maybe it was like 9-2. Definitely like a one-sided game. Like the CT side were rolling, and I forget which matchup this was. And there's a tech pause, and they lose the buy round. They've got stacks of cash, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I broke my monitor," and I was like, There's no way, like, you've actually, like, and he's just said, like, he's actually, like, punched his monitor, and it's broke, like, the monitor doesn't work anymore, and you're like 9-3 up, and you're like, you slammed your monitor, like, what are you doing with your life, man? But, that's, I think, the only, like, wacky timeout I've had. I've never had, like, a weird one like that.
Yeah. I remember one of the American boys when we were doing IEM New York. I think he had like a tornado or something like coming around his area, so he had to like change PC to a backup generator or something. You do get some wacky ones out there. So
I mean, could be true.
Yeah.
Not the classic TeamSpeak issues. No.
I mean, we had one, but no, we didn't have it. But actually, I heard about one in practice where it was like anarchist. He just said, "Guys, you need to pause. My cat jumped out of the window." For us in the team, and he went weird back for a few minutes, and then he came back.
I think, was this like maybe August last year? Because I remember actually someone having like a similar excuse or something like that. Like
I don't know if
BRB,
it was in practice or if it was in a match. To be honest, I haven't asked.
All teams have got the same excuse.
I've definitely remembered like someone saying, "Oh yeah, like something's jumped out my window." Like I've definitely remembered that. Like yeah, fair enough. Back on track, maybe.
Yeah, we can do. I want to ask about Sinners, because I remember watching a lot of them and casting a lot of them when they had Oscar in the lineup. Now, obviously, he's left to join Gorillas for some reason. They've picked up Forza.
He got kicked, to be honest.
He got, right, okay, could have been. What do you think about the team? Because I think their ceiling, they maybe haven't showed it to be as high, but do you think it could be when you play? Have you played these guys in scrims or in
Yeah, actually, we played
officials?
them last season, ESL Challenger, and it was we didn't veto in time, so it was auto veto, and we had to play random maps versus
Oh,
them.
really?
Yeah, but we won 2-0.
Oh.
And yeah, but the thing is, when you play with them now, it's like a completely different team. They actually don't feel as dangerous anymore. Like even like basic things on the map, you know, where you played Sinners before, it would feel like they're like everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
They're pushing you like if you play the overpass, they're pushing you under, they're pushing you mid, they're pushing you B. You know, you would always feel like pressured, but I feel like they don't really have that anymore, and I think that is actually something that Oscar was bringing into the team, where he was a really aggressive operator, you know, and he would not be scared to make plays. Where I feel like Force is maybe, I'm not saying 100%, but maybe he's better skill wise, but I feel like he's a way more predictable operator, you know.
Okay.
So it's way easier to play with them now because you just have to find out where he is, and then kind of you can play around it, you know. Whereas before you would Oscar would just be in your face all the time.
Yeah. Different style of play.
Yeah.
Over to Group A, I think we touched on it in the previous episode, Ryan, about like some of our thoughts. It's quite a stacked group, to be fair. I mean, Movistar Riders, One Win, and Vizsla are the ones that stand out. Even Sangl, we saw them at the RMR, but they didn't have their full lineup. I think they'll be disappointed, the fact that they weren't able to win a series here. Are you surprised at all with Movistar and One Win going through? I mean, even for Movistar, they came last in IEM Dallas, but yet they come first here?
Movistar Riders, I mean, I think this is like, that's what should have happened in that group. I'm a bit surprised actually with One Win above Vizsla, just because since like after they made the roster changes and brought in Flame, and who is the other guy?
They brought in Foster as well, I think.
Ah, yeah, Foster and Flame, actually, I think they have been way worse in general.
Yeah.
I feel like Deco is not getting the same space as he was before. And also, who is this other crazy, insane aimer? Travis, maybe?
Yeah.
On this team? You reckon?
Glowing. No, who's Glowing, maybe. There's one of these guys, older guys, that it's insanely good. Like, he's shooting so fucking hard. We played with him like 4 times or something, and he was insane. Wait,
yeah.
is it Glowing?
I was gonna say Glowing got a 1.13.
Ah, yeah, it's Glowing. It's Glowing.
Yeah.
This guy's insane. Like, he's super good. We played with him, and he was smashing us, to be honest, on Mirage.
Yeah,
but yeah, I feel like when you have Flame in your team, he won't like give you that space that the other players did, you know.
Yeah, wasn't there one thing that we saw from One Win, Ryan, in the open quals where it was like a 1v4 and then Flamey just already left the game before the clutch?
Yeah. That's well, I mean, to be fair, he's known for he has been doing those things before, so.
I don't know why the roster changes happened. When they had Polt and Raven on that team, One Win were top 30 and they were doing really well.
And they were actually on their way up, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what made the changes happen. Now, obviously, HLTV ratings are quite skewed for Orpas, right? Do you think that Deco is insane? Because his numbers say that he is, but it's different when you actually play someone in server to what their numbers say.
So, I do think he has games where he is super, super good, you know? But yeah, like you said, the stats are super skewed, and especially for these CS operators, if you have seen how they actually play. Like these low tier operators, because they don't play for the rounds at all times. And it was actually the same with Monesi when he was in Navi Junior. He is super good, like he was always super good, but some games you would just watch the game and you would be like, okay, he's not trying to win a single of these rounds, he's only playing for the frags, you know. So I think in that sense, I wouldn't say like he is as good as his rating, but I would say he's a really good player anyways.
Should we move on to another event, Ryan?
Yes, I was going to say, we're talking about, you know, maybe the teams that didn't quite make it, your Sangals and whatever, and I think that's about time where we can bring up the major. Obviously, we had to talk about the RMRs leading into things, Dweg, but we're yet to really talk about maybe the challengers closing. Obviously, that's our fourth thing go. Maybe we'll just get your ideas, Kreaz, on the RMRs before our last topic of today. Obviously RMR A, we saw I would say the more stacked side, Team Unique 1 and 3, a couple of other teams as well. Your Gamer Legions not to get a series. I'll bring it up for everyone at home to have a look at here. Is there anyone at the RMR, maybe from the tier 2 space, that you thought should have gone through, or maybe should have had the chance but just didn't?
Not really. I think it was. I think actually this was kind of what I expected when I saw like the groups. People going through. I think the only team that I was a bit surprised didn't go through was actually Heat. And Entropic, of course, Heat and Entropic. But if otherwise, I think it was pretty like clear cut, to be honest, who would actually get into the major.
I was really surprised by Saw. Like, I know in 2020 they had a really good year and they were placing quite highly. The veterans were doing well. And then 2021 was obviously a shit year from them, and they started making
when they
some
brought
changes.
in Story and
oh mate, don't get me started on Story.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, no, that was the worst decision. And then made him main AWPer, and he was the lowest impact and the lowest rated player in the whole team, and he was always getting the AWP. It was.
Yeah, I put him in the tier 2 awards at the end of the year for the worst roster move of the year. Had to be Story to Saw. I don't want to rip into him too hard. I think he's still playing, but it was a jump too big. And I think the fact that they brought like Arky back, because they even the weird thing was they didn't even kick their AWPer to get a new AWPer. They kicked Arky, and then Stododo, who was their AWP, moved to Rifle, and then they kick in an AWP.
Super weird.
But they brought Arky back, and I mean, for them to get 2 wins at the RMR and to come as close as they did, fair play to them, because I really did not think they were going to do as much as they did. But then even in the major itself, I think the big surprise is obviously Bad News Eagles being able to get 3 wins. Did you see that coming at all, kreaz? Was there any possibility in your mind that they could make the next stage?
The thing is, with these guys, they're kind of like the Brazilians, you know. So you just know when they're on LAN, when they're hyped, you know, all these guys are good aimers and everything. I didn't really expect them to go through, but at the same time, it's like when you see like these MIBR guys or whatever, you know, you just know like these guys, if they have a good day, you know, they can win versus most teams. I wouldn't say any team, but versus most teams when they're super hyped and super like on point.
Yeah. I think we could say, Ryan, disappointing for some of the non-EU teams at the major. Renegades obviously going 0-3. I will say for them, I didn't actually know until after they lost their last game that they changed in-game leadership, and there's been some
we have been
switches.
practice versus them, and they're actually trolling. Like, they're not even trying to practice. Yeah, like, we played versus them, I think, like 2-3 times, and they're just running around everywhere one by one and doing weird shit, you know, when they have advantages. I was actually sure they were trolling. So I don't know what's going on with that, because they were actually pretty good before, if you remember.
They were very good.
Even when they came to Europe, they were fine. But now I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, 9Z as well. I don't think there's too many surprises. They went 0-3. IHC, first Mongolian team to ever make a major. They were able to get a series, so they were able to beat the Renegades in that 0-3 game, and then had a fairly close game against Imperial as well. Eternal Fire, though, kind of disappointed me at the major. I don't know if you saw any of their games, but I don't know. I just expected more out of Xantares and Boxic on LAN.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's hard to say because you don't know what's going on in the team. But like when you look at them play, and if you have seen these players like Boxic when he was in Mouse and Xantares when he was in Big, like they just look like they don't want to play if you watch their cameras. So I don't know if they have some problems within the team or if it's just like they were stressed or something because of the major, but they didn't really look like they wanted to be there, to be honest. If you watch the player cams, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but that's how it felt like for me when I was watching their games.
I think the other one, I mean, there's obviously not really other tier 2 teams. Obviously, Forza have done fairly well. They're playing Imperial right now to try and see if they can get a spot into the major. This Forza team, there was a moment of time where it felt like they were never making changes. You had Face Crack and you had Xe Power, and those kind of guys flit too, that they just never made roster changes. And then come recently, there's a lot of new players on this team. So are you familiar with this Forza team?
Yeah, the thing is, before Shelfie was in Forza, actually, he was super good in FPL, you know. and we were super
Okay.
surprised with him. And he played, then he stood in for a few teams, and he was super good there as well. So I'm not surprised at all, like that he's doing so well. And then I think Kenzie, I can't remember what team he was playing for, but
He
I
was on
remember
Ethereal, I think, with like
yeah,
Robin
and he was
and
also really good before. So I'm not surprised that these guys came into the team, and I think they're both 20 years old, maybe
Yeah, they're
something like that.
young.
They're pretty young, yeah, exactly. So I think it was a super good decision, to be honest, by Forza with these changes.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to put Imperial in the tier 2 conversation, but I guess you kind of have to. What do you think of these guys?
Well, I mean, the thing is, when you watch them play, you you don't really see the experience, you know, if you know how I mean. Now when they're playing their games, but it could be, you know, they're a bit older, you know, maybe they're thinking it's the last chance for them to qualify for the major. I'm not sure, but might be. But I don't know if you saw their first game on Inferno. I think it was the first game in the.
Was that the one that Fur played really well on? Or no, that might have been
Yeah.
against Liquid actually.
What
Yeah.
game was it? There was a game on Inferno where you could actually see like their T side was really, really, really. It wasn't that. Maybe it was in the
Against Liquid,
North
I know they
American
played
RMR.
Inferno.
Maybe it was in the North American RMR, but basically they were winning
Okay.
super hard as CT, and then you watched their T side, and it was like completely. They were completely lost, and they almost lost that game.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think I would say they're for now a tier 2 team. Yeah, I wouldn't class them as a tier 1 team.
Do we want to go into your pick'ems and my pick'ems, Ryan?
Yes, mate. Okay. I mean, I tweeted a fair bit about this, so I'll come back to the cameras and then we'll have a chat about this. I nearly lost out big time, I'd like to say. There was a certain gamble taken. I actually had Forza instead of Outsiders. I swapped them around last minute thinking, oh yeah, no, they've got them covered. But in actual fact, I nearly threw my pick'ems completely. We learned today as well, Kreaz doesn't even do pick'ems, so that's always an interesting one. Right, let's see. I've got
Too busy.
if you were to have done the pick'ems, do you reckon you'd have got 5? I know that's an easy question to ask because you'd just say yes, but if you sat down and you looked at the matchups and you looked at the teams, do you think you would have actually got 5 out of the 8?
I have no idea, man. I haven't even watched all the major games, to be honest. I'm not sure who went through already.
We have the Forza Imperial game. As you can see, I had Outsiders through instead of Forza, and I switched them around, nearly threw it away, but they got there in the end. Obviously, Liquid versus Astralis. This screenshot was taken yesterday, so that's why it's a little bit outdated. Obviously, Bad News Eagles through as well. So I'm actually quite happy with the bottom row, although Ents to go 3-0, I thought, you know, with recent form, how they did in the in sort of a tier 1 capacity, I thought that I had it covered, but obviously G2 to best him in there was always a fun one to watch. And to be fair, Ents did actually put up a fairly decent fight. It was just a bit unfortunate, really, that G2 got the better of them. And IHC03, to be honest, I don't know what I was thinking. I'll put my hands up there and say...
I would have put them as
you would have?
03 as well.
Fair enough, okay.
IHC, yeah, 03, definitely. I mean, either them or Renegades, like, there's no other teams I would have put as 03, I think.
Yeah, I had the same top row as Ryan. I was contemplating 9Z, but I went IHC. And then the only...
Big mistake.
Yeah, it was a big mistake. And the only other one that I got different was I swapped out Spirit for Forza, and I swapped out Bad News Eagles for Eternal Fire in comparison to what Ryan has there. All the others are the same. So I need Forza to beat Imperial.
You didn't get your... You didn't get your 5 yet, yeah?
No, I'm on 4, so I need Forza to win now, which is looking kind of grim. But it's still there. It's still a possibility.
Yeah, the chance, the light at the end of the tunnel. Sure.
Yeah.
Go on.
I think if we actually go back a step, Ryan, because we didn't quite touch on the Pinnacle Cup.
Yeah,
IV,
I was going to say.
kreaz did play in that event, and there are a few juicy topics to get into.
Yes, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, the Pinnacle Cup, for those maybe that didn't know, I think it's part of like the Relog Media circuit that has offered big money, and obviously the Champions of Champions tour has just been announced and whatnot. Always an interesting one for the tier 2 space. We do have one, I feel like, just in sort of the down low for the tier 2 scene while we wait patiently for everything to start back up again. We're yet to know the invited teams. But an event in which I think actually provided a lot of insight into the tier 2 space, something so competitive. Obviously, as we said, we had Sinners just miss out on the major, and they go 1-3 here, taking one map off of Gamer Legion, one map off K23, and couldn't get a map off Skade. Skade's a whole different kettle of fish when we jump into this main Swiss bracket. Obviously, Finest, you guys, kreaz, went 3-2 in this tournament. The game against Ecstatic you talked about earlier, a bit of a grudge matchup there. But...
No, this is the other game. This is another game.
Yes, yeah.
This is the Pinnacle one.
Yes, yeah. This is, the Pinnacle matchup,
but you played them again, didn't you?
Yeah, we played them in ESL as well, like the Challenger League. Yeah.
A map off of Spirit is pretty interesting to see, considering their recent form.
Yeah, but we should have won this one 2-0. I don't know if you watched our game, but we were up 14-9, and we lose a 1 versus 4, and then we lose a 5 versus 2. Oh. Bro,
human.
Yeah. Or maybe it was... No, it was a 2v5 and a 3v5 or something. Like we were 5 and they, it was horrible and low time and everything. Nah, it was, bro. This was a win in my eyes.
If we talk about your run, you actually got invited into the groups rather than the main Swiss. You had to start even further back. You beat 777 and then Tricked. Now, I want to ask about 777 because they've just made roster changes. Seems like they do very well in those Alyssa events and then don't really do that well in any other. Then even for Tricked, a lot of people have been saying their ranking is a lot higher than where they probably should be. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think they're that good of a team. I do think they had a few good results, so that might be actually why their ranking is pretty high. But I also know they played some LAN, right?
They did. Yeah, they played a couple of local ones.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those give some points as well. So, but the thing with Tricked is they are really like hit or miss, you know. One day you can play them, they hit all their pushes, time very good, and then the next day you're like, oh, another advanced team, you know.
I think, I mean, you probably would have played them when Lucky was still there, but I think Lucky was a very great player for them, and then obviously when he went to Astralis, he didn't quite live up to the expectation. But I don't know, it feels like they don't quite have anyone that will consistently put up numbers. I kind of look at
like they have Larson as an upper. I mean, that's a yikes, to be honest. I'm sorry, but like, this guy is not good.
All right, mate. I'm loving the flame. This is what we brought you on from.
Yeah.
And then even coming into the main Swiss tour, I think we spoke about it last episode. Ryan, Skade were like 0-2, and then they end up with 3 games, pretty convincingly. Tell me about some of the games that you played, because obviously you beat Ecstatic, you beat Isurus, then you were obviously 2-0 up, but went through in the last game. So what was it like overall in this main Swiss?
Yeah, you know, it's Apex again, 14-9. We are 3 versus 1. We throw that and then we lose the series. So yeah, like I said, we should have gone 3-1 or 3-0. But I think in general we played pretty well. We showed a bit more of what we can actually do in game, you know. But I think there was some things that we had to learn, you know, better learn it sooner rather than later. But I think in general we had I would say a pretty good bracket or Swiss, like with the teams we actually had to play. Like you said, Spirit, I would say it's like the only one where it's kind of like you rather play maybe versus a Masonic or whatever, but Apex, I think we definitely should have beat. That was our game to lose, to be honest. And then versus Wisla, we have actually played them before, and we're just super confident versus them. But I think we did fine, you know.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the games. I know that against Isris, you played pretty well on Dust2 and Mirage.
I remember
and
casting that game. Whoa.
Oh, did you cast the game right?
Yeah, mate. I remember
Yeah.
one round specifically on Mirage, right? It was like Finest CT side, Isris T side. They had like 20 seconds left. Isris were in a 5-on-4. They have 5 people on short, or like 4 people on short, right? And the bomb solo rushes Con, dies, and they lose the round.
Yeah, we had Eco. We had Eco, I
Yes,
think.
yes.
Yes. We had Eco, we won.
Mate, honestly.
I was so surprised, and then, the crazy thing was, one of their fucking guys went to jump ladder to hunt Ecos while the bomb was down in Con, and he killed me in Pleasant, but then he didn't have time to plant, and Shox was just hiding around Firebox, and I don't know what was going on. That was so insane.
Oh, I remember that game too much, and I remember towards the end of it, I was like head in hands, like, when does it end? When does it end? But it's actually, I guess on that Isris topic, right? It's always surprised me how well they did, although, I mean, didn't play I wouldn't say the hardest teams. We didn't get to see them against a 3-0 team when it came to this Swiss stage, but
I don't know. They played some good teams, mate.
I was going to say that the
they did,
2-1 over Skade was very respectable. Masonic and Wisla Krakow, you should never count them out of a BO3. They've done really well in this tournament as a whole, I felt like. And for you guys, obviously, to score the only loss for them against them, a big result for you guys, I guess, as well, because obviously it aid you on to the 3-2 stage overall. Yeah, I'm actually really surprised with this Isris roster.
Yeah, there was some really good riflers as well that I remember watching this event. IEM on Gamer Legion played really well. Patsy, I don't know what he was like in your game, but he's on some really good form recently.
Patsy's
And
good.
then obviously for Fasher, we know mechanically speaking, he's probably one of the best players out there right now in Tier 2. And then Lemon, I was really surprised because he actually played very well, but then AGO didn't even make it into the top 8. So, yeah, uncomfortable for them. What do you think about AGO? Because they're completely different right now. I remember they had like Groovy and Furlan, they had MHL, they had Sydney, and then all of a sudden there's just all these youngsters in here, and they're just making roster changes all the time.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to think about them, because you see one tournament they're playing super good, and the next tournament again they're like here, they just bomb out, and very hard to predict. I don't know if like now again they had to change a player. I don't know if he didn't want to play anymore or whatever happened. I'm not too like I don't know exactly what happened, but now they have some new guy, Accessio. I have no idea who this guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But but yeah, it feels like they just keep changing roster. And I saw their owner or something tweeting about them wanting to have a 7-man roster or something before, which I think is kind of useless nowadays. I mean, people tried it and they obviously didn't really work out. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to think about them. They were super good in, was it Pro League that they played?
They had a Pro League season,
Yeah, and they were actually good there. But then they come back here to play Pinnacle, and you're like, they just look like a completely different team.
Yeah, and for you guys, this is the first playoffs that you've made in a Pinnacle event, and for these kind of first for Pinnacle is the first playoffs, and for these kind of events, the last time that we actually saw you in a playoffs was Alyssa Invitational Fall back in October last year. So it's got to be a fairly good feeling being able to make a playoffs of this sort of event, because it has been a little while.
Yeah. Well, the thing is October. Yeah, the thing is from November and forward all the way until March, basically we didn't have a lineup. I don't know if you remember, but we played with maybe 7 different people.
Yeah.
There was always some issues, so we finally now we have a lineup, and I feel like we're gonna make more playoffs, but we just didn't really have the pieces, to actually get into the playoffs of these events. Even though you might be lucky and play some teams like Masonic sometimes or something. Even though I think they're actually pretty decent. If you have seen their games, they're actually playing pretty decent CS.
Yeah.
But it's super hard to go through these Swiss stages when you're always playing like with new players and you don't really have like a set team,
Gotcha. I don't know if you got anything else to add, Ryan, but
Nah, I'm good, mate.
I think roster changes are a good way to go. There's actually a few that kreaz you've played with before, so I might be throw them over your way to get some insight.
Yeah.
Dweg, like to add one more thing though before we go through and talk things through. For those watching on Twitch, which you should by the way, twitch.tv/tier2 talk. Forza currently losing 12-5, mate, on second map.
Oh, no.
So the Pick'ems.
Wait, they lost Overpass this hard?
Yeah, they lost 16-5 map 1 and they're losing Mirage 12-5 right now.
Jeez,
as we're live. Yeah, so not the greatest of times, but they are on the CT side of Mirage, so maybe they'll take a leaf out of Finest book and win the game.
12-5. Oof. This is rough, man. This is rough on Mirage.
Right, roster changes. Otherwise, we'll sit here and yap on about that. Because I will absolutely be doing that if the time comes up. Yeah, so we'll talk about some roster changes. I think safe to say there's been a fair few of them. Obviously, I talked about the Heaven and Hell one earlier, Dweg, but on a more European level, it seems to be sort of, the post-major shuffle that we have actually comes post-RMRs more than anything.
Yeah, I think the thing is, though, is you only get the post-major shuffle with Tier 1 teams, don't you? Whether the major's on or not, Tier 2 is going to change, because they can. The first one I want to touch on is Lollipop 21K. Now, I don't know if you can bring it up, Ryan, of his actual tweet, but he said that he'll become a free agent when he finds a new organization. Now, obviously, he stood in with you guys for a little bit, kreaz, so you got to play with him for quite a few games. I remember him being like the god of Tier 2 for years. When he was on the Mega, he was one of the best players we'd seen in such a long time. How has this guy not found a home?
Well, I don't know how much I can say, but as probably you guys know as well, we tried to actually get him into Finest.
Yeah.
But there was some issues with the let's say the transfer, and I think that's one of the main reasons he actually haven't found a home yet. So I think skill-wise and everything like that, people of course know he's super good, but yeah, that has been like the main problem for him, why he hasn't found a team yet.
Yeah, the interesting one for me is speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
he does.
there.
Yeah.
But Movistar Riders, maybe if they realise that they might need a slight little upgrade, might be able to go there. But again, this is a guy that when I look at the CIS players for the last couple of years, and I think, okay, who were the two hardest hitters over the last few years? It's Elian and it's Lollipop 21K. You have to think about those two players, and he's a rifler. There aren't many riflers from Europe or CIS that I think have the skill set that he does. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there are others?
Let's say both yes and no. The thing with him is he like we played with him as well. We played with him for I think almost a month. He's super skilled, but I do think there definitely are some players that are, how to say, they're way better at adapting and actually playing with their team than he is. But skill-wise, for sure, he's definitely in the top for one of the most skilled players.
Okay. Some of the other ones, all the dig players going up for transfer. I think you can pull that one up as well, Ryan, to have a bit of a look at that one. I don't know if I'm too surprised. Like, obviously, they built this team for LAN, and then COVID hit, so it was always a very much a struggle with the lineup that they had when the project first started. But there's some very good pieces on this team. I think Heat kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if you'd known much about him, kreaz, but anytime there's a 1vx and he's in it, he seems to be winning them.
Yeah, no, I didn't know about him at all before he came into Dintas. I was super surprised to see that. But I wouldn't say I'm surprised, to be honest, because I mean they're obviously not living up to like the expectations.
Definitely,
I would say, and yeah, I just feel like I don't know, like it feels like something is missing, in that team. Whether it's like firepower or whatever it is, but I just feel like they never really had that like extra thing to to break into like playing these tier 1 events or whatever.
Yeah. I was gonna say it did feel like at one point it was the Hulzerk and Heap show, right? And then we had like maybe like a game here or there from the other three, but it did feel like very dependent on a few players and sort of the same story of, oh, we need someone else to show up. I did think that was the case. Obviously, people love speculating as soon as this came out. I don't know what you guys think, but building a new team, is that what Dignitas want to go down, considering obviously they're looking for results and the name that it brings? I say the rumors as if someone's reported on it, but a lot of people thinking maybe Bad News Eagles are going to be picked up by Dignitas.
Make a lot of sense.
It would. I guess from a neutral standpoint, from a neutral POV, kreaz, do you think it would be better for Dignitas if they made a new roster and pulled pieces together, or do you think it would be the smarter decision for them maybe to just go with the Bad News Eagles or look for a team that's already been together?
I mean, I'd say you have outsiders as well, you know.
Yeah,
so
very true.
You never know, you know.
Thing.
But I would definitely say that they should or would probably. I think both should and would probably go with a team that is already existent rather than trying to make a new team.
Well, do you know what I'm looking at? 777, their AWPer, you know, not being a star AWPer.
Who is their AWPer?
Mickey transitioned because obviously.
Oh, he's the AWPer.
Yeah,
you know, we played with them. We had no idea. Do they have an AWPer even? We were like surprised. We were like, do they even have an AWPer?
Yeah, because they were rocking Marcelius for a bit, and then obviously they parted ways with him. So then Mickey, who used to do a little bit of secondary AWPing, he then became the primary. And I think while we're getting some glimpses of him, Hulzerk's available. To me, it's a bit of a no-brainer, but there could be more behind it too.
Yeah, the thing is, would Hulzerk go down to that?
Mate, if he doesn't get picked up, he's got to go somewhere. And yeah, it's going back to your roots as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you never know, but it's always hard to say, you know, because you had Jacob trying it out for a while, you know, with Apex back then, and then he wasn't super happy with that, and I think he left within a month or something. And went to Extreme, so yeah, so
yeah,
but
in other news, talking about the Bad News Eagles, James Banks joins them as their team's manager. And it's not really that much of a player roster move or anything, but I think that will only help them, Ryan, to get an organization. We know that they've obviously now made it to the next stage of the major. They're a very strong team. They're one of the strongest that we have in Tier 2 as of right now. They are on some really good form. You can see the passion behind them. Hopefully, this is the right direction of them getting picked up.
Yeah, I think Banks is actually... It surprised me a lot when it came out, but logically speaking, it's probably the best decision they could have made, right? In bringing someone on to take the managerial side away from Skittle, because I remember Rigon on stream just a moment ago after they'd won their game, he was saying they don't have an analyst, they don't have a performance coach, they don't have like a mental coach either. They are them and the coach. And so for Banks to take on the business so-called side of it, I think is actually really cool to see. And I think it'll only improve them as a team and give Skittle more time for the players. And how well they've been performing so far at the major, I think, you know, as we were talking about earlier with Dignitas maybe eyeing them up, is this an opportunity where Banks can make the connections to other teams, you know, maybe not so much an iBuyPower as such, but teams that have left Counter-Strike that maybe want to come back in and, you know, weighing up these offers. I feel like Banks is actually a huge plus when it comes to the opportunity maybe of finding a new home. So yeah, I think that's a big plus.
And I'd only imagine once they get signed, he'll probably leave and they'll have someone from the organization itself be the manager of the team and what have you. So I would imagine this stint for him is help them get to an org. Once they get an org, then they're found their home and they can move forward from there. Coalesce signing Emmy. I mean, this is something that everyone kind of knew was happening, but the official announcements come through. Have you played this Coalesce team in prac at all? Because even though on paper they've got a strong lineup and Robin's a part of it as well, they're not playing on HLTV very much.
Yeah, we actually played them in the Dallas No. We played them in some qualifier and we have practice versus them.
Did you play them in the major qualifier for the RMRs?
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was the last RMR
before the changes. I think I remember seeing because they were called like La Caca or something like that, right? Before.
Yeah, but they played with Emmy. 100% they played with Emmy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't with Thomas. Yeah, I'm not really sure about their team, to be honest. Yeah, it's interesting.
Like obviously it's Swedish core.
Yeah.
One of the things that I looked at straight away when the lineup first came together, I mean that was obviously when Thomas was there too, is I felt like it lacked a lot of youth. That it's got a lot of older guys in the team that have been playing tier 2 for quite a while, and there's no like spark of that hunger factor. Do you reckon that could be something on this team, that if you don't have those young, hungry prospects, that it kind of is a difficult team to push forward?
Not really. Like, I played with Robin, this guy, like, even though he's, how old is he? 26 or something.
Yeah, maybe about there.
Like, I'm actually friends with him in real life, so it's kind of weird that I don't know how old he is. But I went on vacation with this guy. But yeah, like, he's super super hungry, and he always wants to like learn and find new things. So in that sense, I don't think that you need that many like young players, and they have Manen actually, which is
Yes.
up and coming. I think Yakinho also wants to prove himself after the time in Fnatic. I just don't know if they really. I'm not really 100% sure about their lineup,
Okay. I mean, the concern I obviously have, I don't know if you have the same view, Ryan, but you got two IGLs right now. You got Emmy and you got Robin. So
Yeah.
Robin is not in game leading.
So now that Emmy's come in, that could be the change, right?
Yeah.
And then do you have a bit of secondary callings, a mid round? We'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously they're doing very well in advance, but then that's best of ones. You got to prove it on HLTV. You got to play those best of threes to really make the marker. Leo DRK getting benched on Double O Nation. I think roster changes had to happen with that team, with Cold0, knowing the fact that they didn't do that well and they didn't qualify to the major. The one that did surprise me a little bit was the Sprout move. Murix leaving Sprout and Lawnix coming through. Now, I've seen a bit of Lawnix, and he's pretty decent. He was playing with those Nexus boys for quite a while. Have you seen much from Lawnix at all?
Not really, but I'm pretty sure when we were looking for players, actually, someone recommended him. But I haven't actually seen him. I don't even think I have seen him play, but I watched his stats, and he seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say the idea of Sprout making the move is that they move away from the well, I think it was the German speaking, but they are still speaking German. Yeah, and obviously they brought in Stare.
They are?
Maybe not now actually.
They're probably speaking English, but
I'm
then
pretty sure
you've got a lot
they
of
have been
German
speaking
players.
English since they brought in Rals.
Yeah. No, Rolls is German speaking. I found this out actually. I think Rolls is
Really?
German speaking.
But
Yeah,
they
he's
had Bear is a coach, and I'm pretty sure he's not speaking German.
Maybe
Yeah, they
not.
got Barry,
Maybe
don't
not.
they?
Yeah. I don't know. It's always a confusing one with that org, right? And that team specifically. But it's nice to see, obviously, Stare and Marix given the opportunity to move up. And obviously that change as well. I think they're going to be pretty bitter for the RMR because they had to play with a coach to begin with anyway. But I think we did expect to see a little bit of a better result from them, considering, of course, they came from where they were in the qualifiers, did really well, made it through. And then after all of that, just yet to even pick up a series, it's a little bit disappointing. So I think maybe too soon on the roster change, but I think it wasn't a shock to anyone that maybe it happened. But I think it was actually Marix benching himself, if I'm not mistaken, like removing himself from the roster.
That's what I saw.
We don't know the reason, right? So it could be internal issues, or he's not happy where he is, or, not given the space, whatever it may be. But yeah, for him to remove himself, I'm wondering, is that more of a personal thing rather than a team thing?
One aspect I look at straight away is now that we've had one Romanian player leave their scene and go international, it seems like it's happening quite a lot now. There were years in which if you were a part of Nexus, you never left Nexus. You just played on that team for just years. And we saw IEM leave to go to Game Legion. We're now seeing Zello play on Ecstatic. We're now seeing Lawnix go through as well. So it could actually be a shift for the next 12 months or so that we get to see more of these Romanian players actually sort of having a chance on EU teams rather than just playing in their own region and expanding out. Letney joining Tai Lu as their coach. I mean, a disappointment for the Chinese team there to not make the major, considering they were a heavy favorite to do so. So trying to get some EU experience. Have you played Tai Lu at all? Because they would have been in Europe for a bit.
Yeah, we actually played them before they got Letney, before the RMR. And they were just running around everywhere in practice. No, but for real, they were actually just running around everywhere and just I don't know. We didn't search Prackworst them any time again before, like after that. We were like, okay, yeah, let's not accept their Prack requests anymore.
Yeah, that Danking kid is pretty good on the team, but as a whole, I think changes on the horizon. More for AGO. Krasnal, one of the guys that's been there for a fair portion of time, and Grashog, that was sort of the second in-game leader with.
Did he even get to play any matches, Grashog?
No, I think he was subbed.
He played a few, but not many. He filled in on certain maps, so he didn't play like entire best of threes as such, because they were using that 6-man lineup and rotating it. And I casted one game for AGO. Map 1, they had Furlan in game leading. Map 2, they had Grashog in game leading, and then Map 3, they had neither Furlan or Grashog. And I was like, what is going on? They've got Map 3 without IGL. So yeah, I don't know.
They got absolutely smashed on the second map.
Yeah, more changes though. So we'll see. It seems like the point of view from AGO is bringing a lot of young talent forward, and try and find that next generation. Order in the ANZ region part ways with their CS:GO roster, so LFO might have the opportunity of getting picked up there and finding an organization. And this Strive in Chaos team, I recognize a few of the players, Joel in particular, that plays there. It's Maki, Rogar, PTK, and Joel. I don't know if you know any of those players, but they've just been signed by an organization.
I know, like the Swedish Joel, yeah?
Yeah, Swedish Joel.
Yeah, I know him. About Maki, I just know that, I don't know, he was super weird. He had like minus 15 every game. Then he played 3 series in a row where he had like the crazy record. Then he went to go minus 15 every game again, and it was so weird.
Yeah, I think that was on LAN in like that IESF event or whatever it was, where he just put up like stupid
No, it
numbers.
was. I'm pretty sure it was online with Nexus or
Online?
something, and he did like a crazy record.
Yeah, could have been.
And then he just went back to being super bad again, and I don't know what was going on there, to be honest.
Tell me about Joel, because we obviously saw him in the UK scene standing in for Into the Breach only fairly recently, and he wasn't even AWPing. I remember him doing a lot of AWPing. Like him and Chauzy were the 2 guys, I think, from Flowsuka that started getting in with GXR and started getting more experience. He was just doming with the rifles. So is this guy an AWPer now, or is he a rifler? I don't know what Joel is now.
I'm pretty sure he's always been an AWPer, but he had some personal problems why he couldn't keep playing. If you remember, he was playing with Savage guys.
Yeah.
Galaxy Racer, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm a bit actually surprised he's back, but I mean, I guess it's good for him. Like he's still super young. I think he's 16, 17, and he's super skilled. So it's good to see him back, but I'm a bit surprised, to be honest, to see him back this fast. But yeah.
Okay, well that wraps up all the roster changes, Ryan.
Was gonna say, mate, your pick'ems are in the bin. Forza just lost 2-0, so
oh, no diamond coin.
Nah.
Oh, that's devastating. That is.
You're gonna have to stick with gold. And you laughed at me for getting a silver one in Berlin, and I thought
they lost 16-5, 16-5.
Yeah, they got pumped both maps.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Any final thoughts, gents, on today's show?
Are we gonna see Finest winning Pinnacle Cup IV?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay.
Hopefully. All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Kreaz, for joining us, of course, and thank you everyone at home for sticking around, whether you're on Twitch or on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Tier2 Talk. Don't miss when we go live. Yeah, and obviously follow Kreaz as well.
Follow me as well.
It's been littered down here the whole time. It's been there you go, there it is at Kreaz. Yeah, so yeah, go and follow him as well. It's been a pleasure having you on, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, have a good evening, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.